something that brightens Stormcrow's day.
Yeah. Actually,
Until they
Missouri,
started decapitating the revolutionaries.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
don't fetishize the guillotine. Th- like, that just shows that you don't understand history at all.
Understand this. The American Revolution is a miracle that it pulled off as clean as it did. And I use quotes around clean because it was a mess in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
And then the French thought they could do it themselves, and it didn't end too well.
Missouri had some leftover stuff after because I don't remember which county it was. I think it's one north of Kansas City. Before the war kicked off, they had sold bonds to do something in the county. I don't remember what. And, the war kicked off, everything was going off. And I think sometime shortly after the surrender and stuff, the politicians tried to make off with the money that had been put in that had been put up for the bonds or whatever, and they were leaving town on a train, and train robbers stopped the train, held
Wait, just a
everybody
quick
up.
question. Are we talking about American Revolution or American Civil War?
Civil War.
Okay.
And goodness, the only people that they robbed were the politicians that stole the bond money. And I don't think those politicians made it off the train. And surprisingly, nobody recognized the train robbers and couldn't tell the police who it was that robbed the train.
Isn't Missouri also the same state where that one supposed town bully was killed in broad daylight and nobody can figure out who it was?
I don't remember that specific tale, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm just saying, this seems like to be a thing in Missouri if that's the case.
Yeah, well, what was it? The Outlaw Josie Wales takes place out of Missouri, between the Kansas and the Missouri Rough Riders and stuff, going back and forth and murdering people on either side and everything. Bloody Kansas.
Yeah, this is I don't have knowledge of this. I've never heard of these things, but I don't know any knowledge or details or retained any memory of what I've learned about these things. So
It's okay. No American textbook really talks about this stuff.
Yeah, the thing is that I grew up in Missouri and I went to private school on the Kansas side, so we got to learn all the fun stuff. And Missouri and Kansas are pretty sure that the Civil War actually started in Missouri and Kansas before the Civil War actually kicked off. And they're still fighting it.
yeah.
Jokingly, though.
Unfortunately, history was my worst subject, and in some cases, here's what I was taught for history: it's just remembering names and dates. Just remember the names and the dates, and you should do fine on your test.
And,
So
and
I
they got the
retained-
holy
I
trinity of
retained
American
that
history.
just long
so-
enough to get through the test, and not very well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I regret that or not, because looking back, I'm like, there's probably a lot of garbage that they were trying to have me memorize for the history that is inaccurate. So
Yeah.
I got dragged around to a lot of historical places because my dad was part of the Navy Reserves. And so summer vacation, we would go and, well, he would go to whatever base he needed to go to do his thing. And he'd drag the rest of the family along with him. And my mom would drag us around to all the historical stuff. So that was looking... Back then, it wasn't as fun and exciting, but looking back on it now, it was a really good education. And
Yeah.
it was fun.
but usually that's when something catches your interest like that and you dig in on your own, that's when you truly become educated on it, I think, because you're actually trying to learn that info.
One of
You
the-
seek it out.
the
Whereas
big
if you're
prob-
sitting there in a classroom, it's just like, I don't care. You know?
Well, the big problem is when the American school system, when they teach American history, there's what we call the holy trinity of American history. They'll talk about the Revolution, they'll talk about the Civil War, and they'll talk about the Second World War, and they really don't touch on the gaps in between. That's about 100 years between each of those major events, and they'll just like, next big war.
And they
So you
teach
don't
us that
understand
history is
why all
just a
this is
series of
happening.
wars.
And then
In
they
my
teach you
public
history.
school,
It
they
is in
didn't
a
even
sense,
teach World War
honestly.
II until high school.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Then they teach you the bullshit versions.
Yeah, the only reason why I even knew the Korean War existed as a kid was because the Veterans Parkway was across the street from the school, so we all walked over and read all the little plaques around the Veterans Park about the different wars.
Yeah,
That was our quote unquote field trip.
I kind of found out about Korean War because my best friend growing up was escaped from South Korea. His mom spent the last of her money to get him on a boat, and she wasn't even able to come. And so he got adopted here in the States and happened to be adopted by some of my parents' friends.
1950 is one wild year. The first half of the year, the North Korean completely sweep in to South Korea, and then the second half, the UN comes in and completely sweeps up the peninsula, and then the Chosin Reservoir happened.
Yep.
And we're still paying the price now.
You guys ever
Yeah.
see that meme a couple years ago? It was this whole Snickers commercial. You're not you when you're hungry, and it showed the guy offering Kim Jong Un a Snickers bar, and after he ate it, he turned into Gundam style.